then we're requiring the meeting to order at 5:35. If we could stand and pledge allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We will open public comment now at 5:35. Do we have anyone for public comment? All right, it'll stay open until 6:05. So we have Winnacunnet Pride.
Alrighty, it's been a very busy start to the school year. Student Council is currently working very hard planning our Spirit Days for Exeter Week, which is next week. This includes our fall pep rally on Friday, our hallway decorating competitions, and then our canned goods collection drive. And then this is followed by our annual homecoming dance, Saturday, September 27th in the dining hall. And then the Executive Student Council goes on our first leadership conference to Camp Lincoln on October 8th. And then last week, clubs of all kinds officially started meeting during warrior blocks and after school, and auditions for the fall play White Liars and Black Comedy were held 2 weeks ago on September 3rd. And our fall sports are off to a great start, and currently football is still undefeated, so fingers crossed. And all our teams play Exeter late next week, so good luck to them.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
And before we move on, Matthew Dow is here to talk about the Cedar Summit program we had this summer.
Awesome.
Yay.
Yay.
We love this.
We do.
I do have a little short few slides. I
Yes.
don't want to come without some pictures at least today, if you don't
Thank
mind.
you. Thank you.
This is really the best things ever. I do too. I wish I could.
Figured I'd save the video today and at least just show a few pictures. So for those of you who don't know me, again, I'm Matthew Dow, math teacher at Winnacunnet High School, and over the past 3 years now I've been the program coordinator for Cedar Summit program. Having a blast doing it too, especially as a Winnacunnet alumni. I think it's a wonderful way to get that connection for these incoming freshmen especially. We have been offering it for the past few years as well to our outgoing freshmen. We always get a few takers. I think this year we had 3 or 4, and they're just as enjoying of the experience, and I think we're going to continue under that realm. It's been wonderful to include them. Just a quick reminder that our goal with Cedar Summit is we are focused on educational enrichment at the front of it, but the core of it is really just to give the incoming freshmen especially a chance to start to make those connections. I think it's really important that we do that. So we have a team of teachers and some upperclassmen peer leaders that help to do that. We develop some lessons in the classroom that are always experiential and always connected to really the state of New Hampshire around us is our goal. We pride ourselves in calling ourselves Cedar Summit for a good reason. So we want to make sure we enrich with local history, that we connect to what exists around us in that. And it gives really our students that really great opportunity to see what Winnacunnet teachers are like, what the ability for them to develop those peer relationships cooperatively, socially. It ends up being a very enriching experience for them. And we keep striving toward it, I think. So this year we did see 41 students attend Cedar Summit. I think our average attendance was about 34. We always have some students that can make it for about a week or 2 weeks, and modified schedules based on availability and athletics and summer schedules. But 37 of our students were incoming freshmen this year, and by the end of it, with our requirements on attendance and completion of certain key elements, such as their student showcase, which is a little presentation they do at the end to show what they gained from experience from it, what their best experience was. We ended up awarding 33 students this year, most of which their first high school credit, which I think is profound, because success story that we're gonna see 4 years down the line, when they're ready to graduate. This is one little piece of the pot, and it gives them a good mindset. All 8 staff members we had returned this year from previous years, so absolutely blessed to be able to have staff members that work really well together, that know what the hope and goal is, and we've just been able to better it every year. We were also able to include 4 upperclassmen this year, 2 incoming seniors, 2 incoming juniors, as upperclassmen peer leaders. They were incredibly amazing, 2 of which actually as previous Sea to Summit students themselves, so students that came back 2 years later to kind of give back to what their positive experience was, which I always love seeing. So we always encourage our students to return, to help out again, and it works. And within our experiences, again, in the classroom, we always try to offer something. So this year, our teachers offered experiential labs and discovery on buoyancy, on navigation, actual chart navigation on maps. We always have our history teachers develop that connection to local history, and team building at the core of everything, including the first day we always start by bringing them out on the ropes course, and we have Mr. Larry Francoeur give us a hand that day, and he runs them through a few of the low ropes courses because we want to build trust and kinship right away out the gate. All of our in-classroom experiences, we always connect to where we're going to take them. So we're so blessed to be able to take them out and about within the state of New Hampshire. We take them to the Blue Ocean Society in Hampton Beach, where they get to discover about our local marine life, and then also get to spend an hour picking up the beach and surprising themselves at how much trash is there during the summer. And being that we do that in the first week of July, it's always after the 4th of July celebrations. So mostly cigarette butts.
Yeah. Plenty of trash.
Pounds and pounds of trash. But then they come back feeling so accomplished, and they get that realization of how important it is to take care of the space around them, the place they live. For our first large field trip, we took our students to the Portsmouth Black Heritage Trail. We've had for the past few years a couple of their private Sankofa tour guides take us around into 2 split groups, take us to some of the major events and locations, talk about the history, for which also our history teachers had kind of prepped them for and gotten them ready for. So they always appreciate as tour guides how knowledgeable and respectful our students are, because they're already kind of equipped for it. We then take them over. The only time we go out of state is over to Kittery Point, over to Fort Foster, and we do that because it has such a rich way of sharing the local history of World Wars I and II. We take them on some exploration. We go through some of the different ways in which that fort, as well as all our other forts in the seacoast, were so impactful during that time. And so they get that history reference. They get to understand what the point and purpose of it was, which then also connects to, in our second week, we took them on a boat again to the Isles of Shoals. Left Rye Harbor on the Uncle Oscar, and we had a beautiful weather, couldn't have asked for a better day. Took them out to the Isles of Shoals, did a whole cruise around, and then we get to spend about an hour and a half on to Star Island itself, exploring, giving the students a little bit of freedom to check out a few of their small locations within, have a nice picnic lunch before we came back, and just a great day. During our last week, since we've spent time at the sea, we always want to make sure to take them to the summit as well. And so this year we had the pleasure of going back up to Cannon Mountain, take the tramway up to the top, for which we're going to have to take a break for a couple of years. I don't know if you've heard, they're going to start redoing, repairing, replacing some parts, so it'll be shut down for 2 years. So I'm glad we got in on it yet again. But giving them a chance to see the peak, having a clear view, being able to point out, there's Vermont, there's Massachusetts. You look a little further and you can just see a couple peaks into Canada, and for them to see that scale and grandeur and realize that this is within their backyard is pretty amazing, because surprisingly a lot of them haven't been out on the ocean, haven't been up to the mountains, even though they live in this great state. On our way back, we actually introduced a new experience today. After we did the Cannon Mountain, we stopped at the Polar Caves. It ended favorite experience. If you could imagine seeing 35 students crawling through and 8 teachers crawling through these caves, it was just fascinating and amazing, and they loved it. And I think if you ask every one of them, they tended to point to that was their favorite experience this year. So something we're going to have to consider for future years as well, for sure. And for some reason, they love the 2-hour bus ride each way. I don't know. It's that experience of bonding, right?
I love it.
They love to just be able to finally sit and talk now that they have made those connections and
Yeah.
relationships. And most of them I'm seeing now going through the halls that are, from various towns, and they have these friendships that they're keeping, and they're, they're hanging out with each other, and they're high-fiving. It's incredible, honestly. So you'll see just a few different pictures. Our first day on the ropes course, our students feeling a little unsure about each other, but starting to develop a little bit of trust. We had beautiful days almost every day this summer, so hopefully we can keep that habit too. Students discovering our local marine life at Blue Ocean Society, and they always get just the ability to dig into the tanks, get their hands wet literally. Profoundly important experience going to the Black Heritage Trail, seeing the memorial, getting to read all of the signage on each of those statuettes. Being able to explore Fort Foster, see the view, throw some rocks in the water a little bit. Two of our teachers did give them a chance to do some tide pooling as well through one of their experiences that day. And again, being able to share experiences in the classroom. You'll see on the left some students testing out some foil boats based on their study of buoyancy in Newton's Law. On the right, you see some students exploring with some teachers how to actually navigate on a chart. And these were all charts of our own seacoast region. So they were trying to pinpoint where Star Island was, measure it, navigate it, and figure out where we were about to head the next day. And there we are on Star Island. A lot of opportunities for group photos. Our last chance on this one was the mustard. I think we rode up on the ketchup and down on the mustard. And as I said, the bus ride.
The bus ride is the best.
I don't know. I can stand without sitting on a bus for 2 hours, but they love it, and I'll take it every time.
Yep.
And then us all at the Polar Caves. And I was asked by Mr. McGowan to share a couple particular pictures. And if you've ever been at the Polar Caves, the last run through the Polar Caves is the lemon squeeze, which is very difficult to get through if you're not a small child. And I would like to point out that Mr. Miller almost made it through, but he did have to back out. It's okay, he'll get me for this one. But Mr. Wallace
He did?
made it through.
You got
Took him about 8 minutes,
Yeah.
but he did make it.
That and a little olive oil,
Quite proud
right?
of himself, yep. So honestly, it's been an engaging, wonderful summer experience.
it.
It's an absolute joy. So thank you for your continued support. It means the world to these students. It means the world to me as an alumni. And it means the world to Winnacunnet staff in general. So please keep supporting us, and we will keep making that first experience as students at Winnacunnet High School the most magical we can make it. And we'll kind of close off with a glimpse of our Sea to Summit staff and our peer leaders this year, because I'm just one person and I'm not doing all the heavy lifting. Once things get rolling, I get to be an observer just as much as the students do. And they put together amazing things for these students. And final shot of us on the boat this year. So, thank you. Does anybody have any questions you'd like to ask?
That is amazing. It's one of our favorites, so thank you so much for heading it up, though.
Oh, it's my pleasure. It's honestly, once I hit March and start thinking about, all right, what do we want to plan, and start picking brains of the staff that I know are returning, and it just coming up with how we're going to organize it and structure it gives me a new recharge for the end of the school year. It just makes me joyful about what's going to happen in the summer.
Oh, that's
So
awesome.
I love it.
Wow. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it.
Well done.
All
Must be
right.
great for the students, and when you're a freshman, you're coming into the building, and you already know at least
you know,
Mhm.
more, a couple dozen other kids who were in the same boat, right?
So
Oh,
true.
absolutely.
Pardon the pun. on your
Yeah.
last
No,
line.
no. No,
Exactly.
you're absolutely right, and the peer leaders get so much out of it, as well. Currently writing a college recommendation for one that I was so happy that she came back and asked me to write one.
Yeah.
I think it's probably the easiest one I'll have written in 10 years.
Oh, that's
honestly.
awesome.
So,
Thank you.
thank you for your time, appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We're gonna go on to, motion to approve the minutes. There's 3 of us that were there, right?
Right.
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay, I'll move that we approve the minutes from the August 20th, 2025 school board meeting.
All right,
Seconded?
thank you. All those in favor? Abstaining?
Oh,
There you go. Perfect, thank you. We have SAU, we have the reports. So-
Sure, so I'm happy to start with some SAU reports. First, we're back. It's hard to believe we are in the middle of September already and several weeks into our routine. But if we revert to the opening day for a minute, our opening day with staff was August 20th. And on that occasion, we recognized staff who have worked 25 years or more in public education on their 5-year anniversary dates. And this year we had a number of Winnacunnet staff who were recognized. Beginning with 25 years, Christina Carlson, who's an EA here, Laura Elliott, and Amy Terrian, and Ekaterina McKenney, making sure I don't miss anyone. And then with 30 years of experience from Winnacunnet, we had Mark Bernier and Andy Gushy and Amy Waterhouse. I'm not done yet. 35 years, Deb Bostrom, and then finally from Winnacunnet with 40 years of experience serving public education, Eric Nash. So
awesome.
we appreciate all of them and their service to students and the community. I also want to just acknowledge our teachers, our administrators, our IT staff, our custodians, our food service folks, our admin assistants, everyone who works behind the scenes to make sure school is ready to open. The floors are bright and shiny. Athletics are up and running. Students have courses that are ready to open. Teachers have done lesson plans. There's food ready for them in the cafeteria. So just, again, a lot goes in behind the scenes. People don't see it all, but makes for a great opening for our students. So I appreciate that work. I will note, and I know Mr. McGowan sent a reminder note out to folks today, but we have asked families to submit proof of residency. And that is an annual requirement moving forward. We are at Winnacunnet about 60%, I think, right now, somewhere in that range. So we are asking families, if they have not done that, to sign the residency affidavit in PowerSchool, and also to upload 2 proofs of residency. And if you have any questions about that, you can reach out to the guidance office at the high
Is this
school.
like a new regulation?
So families are required to reside in the community,
Yeah.
and we've had some instances across the SAU where we've kind of learned into the year that maybe families were not residing where we thought they were residing, and so to make sure that we are keeping current with that, we're just asking families to do that in PowerSchool. It's pretty straightforward. You can
Oh,
upload.
so it's like a 1 year, because I feel like I did it the first time, but then I didn't have to do it as they moved
Correct.
through the
So now we're
schools.
doing it.
Every single year?
Yeah.
Okay, but that's
Yeah.
just a district thing, not a
Correct.
state law or anything?
Correct.
Okay.
What do we do about homeless families?
So there are always, right, exceptions. Under McKinney-Vento law, there are exceptions to that, and they're not required to provide the same documentation. But again, they can speak with our guidance office. Our McKinney-Vento liaison here at the high school is Tally Westerberg, but anyone at the school can support them, with those questions. And if families have other specific issues, and we always work through individual situations, but they can reach out to my office as well. I did note policies, but we'll be talking about those later in the meeting. And then our principals and central office administrators will be participating in leadership training at Deloitte's training facility in Texas later this month. They offer training to school leaders. It's a contribution on their part kind of back to public education, but they host administrators from around the country at their facility in Texas. The cost for attendees includes essentially hotel, meals, and the training itself, and it's the same leadership training that they provide to their executives within their organization, so should be a good experience.
So this weekend.
This weekend.
Is it this weekend?
Yeah.
Nice.
Dr. Cassily's and Dr. Toomey's reports are included. Dr. Cassily's includes some tips for getting back into the school year routine and some resources for families. And Dr. Toomey's report just shares some information about Medicaid revenue and the history of that within the SAU.
Thank you. Next we have principal's report.
Well, we're off and running. So far, everything's going very well, even with the new cell phone ban and communication devices. Everything has gone very well. We've had no issues.
Great.
We also have been recognized in the U.S. News and World Report as the best high schools. We're ranked 15th this year in New Hampshire, a national ranking of 3,310. And this is the 8th straight year that we've received this recognition.
That's great.
NEASC, we did submit a progress report back in May, so that has been accepted and our accreditation has been continued. And then the next step would be to submit our 3-year progress report in May 1st, 2027. But we are recognized for our commitment to the creation of a thoughtful and extensive school improvement plan and the approach taken to develop a plan which focuses on actively incorporating input from all staff, students, and the community.
Great.
Our Best Buddies program was recognized as an outstanding chapter for 2025 for our commitment to inclusion and leadership in supporting individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities. Enrollment down a little bit, but above where we finished last year, so that goes up and down throughout the year, but I think we're going to be pretty steady throughout the year. And then, time flies when you're having fun. I've got all the dates through October. A week from Saturday, we do have a Winnacunnet homecoming dance, and trimester 1 parent conferences a few weeks away, so it's things are rapidly moving along.
Going fast. Yes, thank you. Anybody have any questions for Bill? All right, Matt, you're up, babe. Finance, the best of the night.
Couldn't wait.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, Sadie. Have a good night, everyone.
You too.
On cue.
Boy, that's
On cue, yep. Clear the room.
So I have included 2 reports on board docs, one of which is the year-to-date expenditure report. We're only 2 months into the fiscal year, so all of our departments are tracking well. However, you will see, we are starting to encumber, various expenditures. We have all of our salaries included, so you'll see those accounts are drawing down. The one account that's notably over budget is health insurance. However, that is not a surprise as we had under budgeted that account. So that's right where we expected it to be. As we do have the health insurance expendable trust, or we may recognize savings elsewhere. So the report I do want to go into greater detail on is the year-end summary for fiscal year 2025, which is the last school year. As you know, we do conduct an annual audit. We contract out Plodzik and Sanderson, who comes on site. They come to the SAU office for the first week and a half of August to review documentation. They look over our invoices, POs, our policies. They survey key stakeholders. The board, actually, you had an audit questionnaire that you had the pleasure of completing at the last board meeting. And we do have, and that process will continue. We'll have a final audited financial statement probably in the February-March timeframe, but we do have our preliminary results as a result of that audit visit. So we did finish the fiscal year 25 year with an unreserved fund balance of $516,814. So you'll note that when you calculate the unreserved fund balance, there's really two big drivers there. One is our expenditures. Did we go over budget or under budget? So you see variances in the general fund. Then you have revenue. So if we report estimated revenues to the Department of Revenue at the state level, and based on those estimated revenues, they will reduce what we receive via property tax assessment, because we know we're getting those revenues. Now, if we receive more revenue than we had estimated, then that's revenue surplus, where that's added to the unreserved fund balance. On the flip side, if we overestimated and we receive less, which hopefully does not occur, then that would bring the unreserved fund balance down. In addition to those two big buckets, there could also be withdrawals from expendable trusts, which in this fiscal year we'll get to, but that did come into play. As you recall, we did make some withdrawals. There are other sources. If we had a warrant article, but we ended up not using all of those funds, then that could go towards the unreserved fund balance. Or if we had any carryover encumbrances that were not executed, that could also. A carryover encumbrance would be if we had an open PO to provide some sort of service, or to purchase something that went over the fiscal year. So we opened the PO or ordered something in June, but didn't get it until July. Well, we know that ends up occurring, or we have a project in July, but we signed a contract in June. Well, if we end up not doing that project, then that excess money would go into the unreserved fund balance. So for this year, on the general fund, it was a unique year because we had some pretty significant overages, as you're aware. But then we did have one area where we saved a good amount of money. So we went over budget on our grounds account by $230,000. Our regular education went over by $133,000. Our vocational tuition, so for SST, went over by $83,000. McKinney-Vento, which is for our homeless and foster population, that transportation budget went over by almost $80,000. Our special education transportation went over by $56,000. However, we saw significant savings on the special education side. So we did see towards the midway through the year, we recognized some savings from move-outs, where we saved significantly on out-of-district placements. So we saved almost $495,000. Less than what we had budgeted.
Can I ask a question before you move on?
Certainly.
Why did grounds go over so much?
That was primarily due to the accessibility walkway. That we had anticipated, we had planned to utilize the building maintenance expendable trust, but it came out of the operating budget. So on the revenue side, there were a few accounts or a few areas where we saw surplus revenue. That included special education aid. So when we provide estimated revenues to the state, they provide us a range, but it's never exact. So we ended up receiving almost $54,000 more than what we had expected. Similarly for tuition, we received $48,000 more than we expected. So we accept tuition students from Southampton. So that's one source of revenue. We also, in some cases, are hardship tuition cases where we'll accept students from other communities. We received $16,000 in contributions, donations. that's something that if we ever get donations, that's always surplus because we can't predict that unless they happen to donate before we estimate the revenues, which is like October timeframe. And then the big revenue surplus that we recognized was a vocational transportation grant of $129,000, which we applied for mid-year. That was an opportunity that was unexpected and very fortunate that we did receive that. So that was great news. So those were the contributing factors both on the expenditure and the revenue side. Now, I mentioned earlier that we also had withdrawals because we were in, even with those, some of those surpluses, which we actually didn't know about some of it until the end of the year, and then some of the overages on the expenditure side, we had made withdrawals from the Building Maintenance Expendable Trust of $94,000 and the Healthcare Expendable Trust for $100,000, because as I had mentioned earlier, we under budget our health insurance, knowing we have that trust to tap into. So that was about $200,000 that contributed to the unreserved fund balance. Speaking of the trusts, we do have 3 expendable trusts, so I just want to update you on the current balance at year end. So special education, we do have a balance of just over $365,000. That has a target of $500,000. Our building maintenance expendable trust is almost $140,000 with a target of $250,000. And our healthcare expendable trust is $237,000 with a target of $300,000. Now, as you know, these expendable trusts are state safeguards. These are, special education and building maintenance are 2 areas where we can really see some volatility and some unanticipated costs. So we set aside money in these trusts in order to safeguard us against those unexpected costs. Since school districts are not allowed to maintain a balance from year to year except for the retention fund that we just recently opened that we'll speak about in a moment.
Hey Matt, I just have a quick question. So this column that says target, you just read through 500,
Yep.
250, and 300. Is that those numbers no more than expenditures from the trusts in a year? Is that how you think of those targets?
It's more guidance.
Okay.
That's not a RSA or regulation. It's really the board has the full discretion as to what the target is. So we set that target, or we recommend that target based on, so for example, special education, we set at $500,000, and that's like a worst case scenario out of district placement.
Okay.
At Winnacunnet, we've seen out of district placements actually a little bit over $500,000 for a single student.
Okay.
So that's, if should a family move into district with a student with high needs, we have that money set aside. Or for, if there are multiple, overages in special education for various reasons, that's there for that.
Okay, so I'm just learning. So my assumption is then that the trust funds are capable of funding whatever we're targeting. We keep that in mind, right?
Well,
They can only
So-
be used
For those purposes.
if you've essentially kind of expended beyond your means within your operating budget, and it's
Okay.
considered an emergency situation, right?
Okay.
The board has a hearing to expend from those funds, and we typically do that at the end of the fiscal year.
Okay. But the trusts are large enough that they can support those kind of requests, is what I'm.
Right, so if
Okay.
we have an emergency situation in the district, right, where we have, and it might be, we're talking special education, so as Matt described, a significant out-of-district need or multiple new needs that arise from when we budgeted 18 months earlier, right? That we then have a place to go without having to make significant reductions to other areas of our budget, right?
Gotcha.
so last year we had some significant HVAC repairs that we were able to, that we withdrew $100,000 to fund those costs. Similarly on the healthcare, a little different with the healthcare expendable trust, because we use that as kind of a mechanism to reduce our budget, and we hedge a little bit there. So, but we withdrew almost $100,000 from that account because we'd gone over in healthcare. But healthcare is also an area where it can be volatile, because we're budgeting a year in advance, and our employees could get married or have, start a family, in which case they go from a single plan to a 2-person or to a family, and that can add up very quickly. Or there's just turnover of staff with different plans, so that we can see some large variances there. But yeah, these trusts are there to fund those large unanticipated costs that may occur in any given year.
And we do, Tracy, and we do look at those numbers, every year, because I know when I first started on the board, in 1820, the special ed was like at 200 or 100, 150, 200, and then we realized that one out of school placement at that point could have been 300,000. So we adjusted it up, and that's what we do too at the end of the year. Is we'll go through and it's cost of living, and it's all of we look at how that. So that's where those target numbers come from.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
No problem.
And those, and that will be, so during our budget process, when we go through all of our budget documentation, that's one of the documents that the board will have. And if there was, if the board did want to make a change to those targets, that is at your discretion.
Okay, thank you.
So it's typically pretty stable, but there might be a compelling reason to adjust it either up or down. So I referenced the fund balance retention fund. That is a relatively new mechanism that we have where we can retain fund balance from year to year. That is on the agenda later on in this meeting, because you need to vote on it on an annual basis to retain any funds. So I won't go, we'll get to that at that agenda item, but I will note that our current balance is $165,253 in that fund. Now, you will have the opportunity to either keep that the same or increase it or decrease it, and that will affect the unreserved fund balance that we are returning to the town to offset tax assessment. Because that is what the fund, I don't think I mentioned this, but the unreserved fund balance, that $500,000 will be returned to the town, and that offsets tax assessment for the following year. So that's essentially one of the revenue sources that we are providing the Department of Revenue to set taxes every year. So moving on, we did have one warrant article that was on the March ballot that was approved, and that was the roof replacement warrant article. That was phase 2 and 3 that will complete the roof project, and that's for our entire 360,000 square foot building as well as the gymnasium for $2,587,361. That project, so that actually started last summer, it proceeded to this summer, and we originally were thinking it would take the next 2 summers to complete. However, we are working with the contractor to potentially get 2 crews on site next summer to complete the project in one more summer, which would be great from our perspective to get that project complete. I'd mentioned carryover encumbrances. So for 24-25, we are carrying over $73,658 into 25-26. Again, that's like an open PO that was for 24-25. That's not being expended until 25-26 this school year. And then finally, our food service program did end the year with a surplus of $46,923. So the final item that the auditors do conduct is any recommendations. So we did not have any material weaknesses or any significant deficiencies, but there's always recommendations that they do make, and we did have 4 recommendations. One of which is that there was one payment made on the credit card that was made prior to a purchase order, so we always want to create the purchase order before charging it on the card. Sometimes that's difficult when you're, using a credit card or the Amazon account because you put the order in and then you create the purchase order. But we're working with our team to make sure that doesn't happen. We had one deposit slip missing for a check payment receipt. So what the auditors would like us to do is when we deposit checks at the bank, to not only keep the receipt that the bank gives us, but also keep the slip that we filled out to make that deposit. So that seems a little bit excessive,
over the
but
top.
they always need to look for something for us to improve upon. But it's always good. We always want documentation. We always thought the deposit receipt would suffice, but
would be enough.
but we will be keeping both deposit slips going forward.
I can see the control that they're looking for there. If you make a deposit up for one amount before you bring the checks over to the bank, and the bank deposit is a different amount, they want to know why that they're not consistent.
There were a couple journal entries that were not signed off on. That was more of a timing issue because those journal entries that they referenced were right before the auditors came in, and so the person that signs off on them wasn't there for that time period. And then there were some athletic fund recommendations. With the deposit receipts, we need to have that documentation. There were 2 checks that did not have 2 signatures on it. You always want double signatures, particularly if it's made out to an individual. So we're ensuring that we always have that proper segregation of duties going forward.
So what it says, if I'm reading it correctly, is he wrote 2 checks to himself and signed them.
Right, and it should have a signature from someone else. So
yeah,
that
seems like it should.
And that's a no-brainer.
And the other one was not deposit receipts. It says missing backup documentation. Like, what would that include?
Yeah. So that is the other receipt. So,
okay.
So that's the documentation.
Okay.
So.
But it also said, the balances didn't, how far off were they?
$5 or $6.
Okay,
Oh.
thank you.
So yeah.
Thank you.
So there were.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Right? Yeah.
So the beginning balance from last year didn't match the opening balance for this year, and that's because last year the auditors made an adjustment. It was like $6 adjustment, and the person that entered it for this year didn't make that
Okay.
correction. So
That's fine.
there's
I had visions of a lot of zeros.
these are all. I will reiterate that these are very minor
Yeah.
issues
Yeah.
that I'm
Things,
not concerned about.
Except writing a check to yourself.
Well, that
That's
should
not
never
really
never
minor.
happen. However, we do have the backup, and those were legitimate, but we certainly do not want the optics of impropriety, and that's something that can't happen going forward. And then there was a negative balance, and that was really just a timing issue. So as far as receipt of the funds, so those were the recommendations from from the auditors. All in all, I was very pleased with the process and the results of that audit. I typically take a moment to discuss not only where we were last year, but also our current status this year, and then looking forward to budget year in this case FY27. So as I'd mentioned during with our expenditure report this year, there are currently no unanticipated expenditures. However, as always at these meetings or via email or both, in many cases, I will update the board if there are any overage, unexpected costs, or if we are recognizing savings in some manner. So looking forward to next year, we are starting the budget process or budget development for FY27. Bill's working with his team and his various departments to start or is building, looking at our needs by department to build a budget, and we will go through that process and have a budget for the school committee in the October timeframe. And of course, our budget is always intended to, provide that requisite funding and resource allocation that supports all of our students and aligns with our various plans. We have lots of plans, whether that's our Portrait of a Learner plan, our competency-based education plan, technology plan, our facilities and capital improvement plan. I will note that per that capital improvement plan, we will likely be considering 2 warrant articles this coming fiscal year. Again, that will be at the discretion of the school board, but on the CIP, we have a HVAC replacements and controls replacements for approximately $690,000, as well as auditorium seat replacements for $290,000. Now, those are rough estimates as of today. However, we are going through the RFP process, and we'll have exact numbers for the board when we do finalize the budget.
What about the library renovation project?
So that is, we are forming we have a committee, and as a result of that committee work, they will come forward with some type of recommendation on how to proceed with the building.
Okay, and then you decide if it will end up being a warrant article?
Well, that would likely be a warrant article.
Yeah.
That will likely be a capital expenditure, but we first need to go through that process of determining what our needs are and how exactly we want that library to look and what those improvements are, price it out, and that work still needs to occur. So.
Hey Matt, what happens to the seats in the auditorium that are replaced? Do they go to some facilities auction somewhere, or?
So those seat replacements are actually only about half of the seats.
Okay.
And what we're doing is we are replacing a section and then saving the seats as replacements for other seats.
So frugal, very good.
It's also good for the
let's auction
planner.
them off and
Yeah.
make a few dollars
Put 'em in
and
the dump.
put it in an account. Okay.
Yeah.
Because we certainly have seats that are in good condition. It's just we can't replace them individually and match, so we're doing a section and then using those old seats to replace the other section.
Gotcha.
Right? So.
The ones that are in better condition, in other words, the ones you can
Yes.
that can be reallocated will be reallocated. Excellent. Okay.
Absolutely. So my apologies for the lengthy review, but I'd be happy to answer any questions for FY 25, 26, or 27. All 3 fiscal
He knows
years.
all.
Come on, that's it.
No.
No.
Thank you for your patience with the newbie over here.
No, thank you, Matt.
Yep.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Our facilities report is in here.
I just want to make one note that there was a
Okay.
correction that it is corrected in the document you have, that it was the Hampton Academy Winnacunnet High School Alumni Association who will be adding in grade pay is under the pavilion.
Okay.
It was mistakenly said the Friends of Winnacunnet High School,
Okay. Thank you.
but I thank both of them.
Yeah, well, good. We like that. That's okay.
Well, they have Winnacunnet in the name, it's so easy to confuse them.
That's it.
Thank you very
I'm gonna
much.
close
Thanks, Bill.
public comment now
Oh,
at
yes, please.
6:25. Okay, thanks, sorry. Legislative update.
I don't think there's anything to share at this point. I will say the New Hampshire School Board Association held a webinar today reviewing last year's legislative actions and some of the new laws and implications for school districts. I think it's available via recording as well. It was no cost for board members, so you may want to check that out. And then we may be looking to do a early kind of pre-session meeting with legislators, so stay tuned for that, just to have some broad discussion before we get into specifics of the bills that are before the legislature this session. So,
Yeah, I think that'll be helpful, because then we'll get an idea of what questions we want to ask and as far as,
Exactly.
and just coming in and hear them talk, so, yeah. Gonna make it more interactive.
that's the hope.
Perfect, thank you. Policy, second read and adoption.
Yes, so we have 35 policies for you this evening. These were on your August agenda as well for a first read, but these are all required by law policies, and most of the changes are due to either legislative changes or, as we discussed, changes to the Ed 306s, the New Hampshire Rules for Public Education.
Thank you.
I'll make a motion to approve the adoption and withdrawal as recommended for 35 policies as presented.
Thank you.
Seconded.
Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor? Thank you very much. Matt?
Back again.
Unbalanced retention.
Look at me, he's got one page, guys, that's all. Come on.
It's actually just the agenda item. This is really quick. So as I had referenced earlier, we do have a fund balance retention fund where we have a current balance of $165,253. However, the board is required to vote every year whether to keep that amount or either increase it or decrease it. So if, for instance, you decide to increase it to 100 or 200, that means that the unreserved fund balance would be reduced by 35,000. So from 516, if the current balance is $516,814, that'd go down to like 482. Similarly, if you moved it to 175, the unreserved fund balance would go to like 505.
Can you
Or-
remind me what this can pay for? I'm sorry.
So this is a safeguard that in the event of an emergency. So if we were to go over budget,
Outside of
anything,
those other three
right? So there's
accounts.
not. So this is a nice flexible account
Okay.
in that any emergency we
Okay.
could
Can we use this unreserved fund balance to up the other accounts as well?
No, so the only mechanism to fund those expendable trusts are a specific warrant article that's for a contribution either through unreserved fund balance or raise an appropriation. So,
Yeah, I mean, I think of this account, I mean, for example, if you had a sudden influx of, students and you had to add a teacher in a particular content area, or you had a sudden influx of students and you needed to add an ESOL teacher. I mean, certainly there are other areas that could necessitate a change. You could have an unexpected legal claim that that was costly, but it's an emergency use fund.
But for the surprises that you might see during the year, okay.
We hope not to see, but could occur.
Yeah. Is there some kind of percentage variance that you recommend? Or is it just so different year to year that there's no?
So, so the law allows 5%, of the total appropriations, so, I would not recommend, setting aside, we don't even have enough to reach that 5%.
Yeah.
That'd be a large, that's like $1.5 million, something, pretty, that is not necessary. Because there's obviously, we need to be, we want to put in place these safeguards in the event of unexpected costs, but we also want to be fiscally responsible and be cognizant that we don't want money sitting around with no purpose, right? So there's a line there. I think it'd be appropriate to build this up slowly, to where, you know, we have a couple $100,000 available, but I don't think we want to hold more than that.
Okay.
So.
So I'm hearing, I think we should just stick with what the retained, right? Like, how much do we want?
Well, I would say, why wouldn't we up it to like 250,000 while we have the extra money available? Is that?
Yeah, I mean, I would, so we have $516,000 that
Right.
we could utilize. And we are coming off a year where we didn't return unreserved fund balance, so this is all, from a tax rate perspective, this is all, kind of surplus. However, I would be conservative, with this balance. I mean, maybe, $200,000. It feels right feels comfortable to me. But it's really what the comfort level for the
If
board.
we do 200, then that means 316 goes back to the,
No, so
we would
so
total it at
it means
200.
480
Got
goes
it.
back.
Most of it would still go back. I
Okay.
mean, I'm just
So,
kind of
yeah.
concerned because you already said we're gonna be over for healthcare, and we took money out of healthcare,
Yeah.
and now we're below the target on healthcare, plus we're below the target on special education, and we're below the target on
Yeah.
building maintenance. I don't know.
But
And if we have the spare money, like,
yeah, I mean,
I appreciate returning it, but it's like returning 2 pennies to
Yeah.
people, It's like,
Right.
let me return you 2 pennies.
Yeah.
You split over all of the taxpayers from all the towns, right?
Yeah.
right,
I mean, I can certainly appreciate that argument.
yeah.
I would say at least to 200,000 would be my perspective.
Sounds good.
So how do we fashion the motion then? Is it,
We just,
So
we say,
be,
We'll tell
so
motion
it's,
to authorize the retention of 200,000
Yeah.
of the
No,
200.
we're not gonna keep 200, we're gonna total this at 200, right?
but you have the motion has to be for the total, so.
okay.
So every year we
not
need
the
to-
amount
Not what
we
you're
are adding.
No, the
Oh,
total
not what
amount.
we're
That's what I
adding,
thought.
okay, I get it.
It's a little
All right, let me give it a
confusing.
shot then. Motion to authorize the retention of $200,000 of the 24-25 unreserved fund balance.
Is that right?
Perfect.
Perfect, good job.
Second.
Thank you. Any questions?
So we're actually taking out of the 516, we're taking like 35,000.
Correct.
34 and change.
So it's gonna be, the unreserved fund
Okay.
balance that will return is about 482,000.
Okay.
And we will have 200 in
Right.
our,
200 in
Correct.
the emergency account.
okay. All right. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. NIASC update.
So, Principal McGowan referenced this already in his report. We just included the documentation from NIASC for you.
Okay. Thank you.
And we do have one non-public item this evening.
All right, so then we need a motion to, Nicole, you do these. Go.
That's Nicole's job.
Yeah, Nicole
That's
gets
my
the,
job. Oh, just let me scroll down. to
yeah,
get
scroll
there.
down.
All right, motion for a roll call to enter non-public session under RSA 91-A:3 Roman numeral 2A at 6:34 p.m.
Second, okay, perfect.
Well, no, it's roll
And then
call.
we have to do roll call. Yes.